6:30, Your Worship.
Thank you. Welcome to our council meeting. Bienvenue à notre réunion conseil. The municipality of West Nipissing respectfully acknowledges that we are gathered on the homeland of the Anishinaabe people on the traditional territory of the Nipissing, Temagami, and Doki's First Nations, covered by the Robinson-Huron Treaty. We honor and recognize their historic connection to the land and value their significant contributions in shaping and straightening our communities. We are grateful to be gathered here today. La municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest souligne respectueusement que nous sommes réunis sur le territoire désigné dans le traité Robinson-Huron, territoire traditionnel du peuple Anishinaabe et particulièrement des Premières Nations Nipissing, Temagami et Dokis. Nous honorons leur lien historique avec cet endroit et nous apprécions leur contribution significative à nos communautés. Nous sommes reconnaissants d'être réunis ici aujourd'hui. Okay. Are there any declaration of pecuniary interest? Conseiller Yvon?
Madam Mayor, I will not declare a conflict of interest tonight. I have a right to defend myself. I feel that I have done nothing wrong. I'm in the process of seeking advice, and hopefully by the next meeting, I will then have a better understanding and will do what is needed. Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none.
Point of order.
Yes, Conseiller Fisher?
So I'm assuming that we're talking about 5.2, but okay, so 5.1, I assume that there are at least some members of council that have many members that work at the municipality, so that collective agreement, we sure nobody wants to declare on that. And then 5.3, there's yet another advice from the Integrity Commissioner that says it's imperative that 4 of us get that legal advice. And is no one going to declare on that? Because, you know, if we're not going to listen to the Integrity Commissioner at all, then why did we hire him? Thank you.
Well, as a ruling to your point of order, as stated every time, it's quite clear pertaining to our code that conflicts are self-disclosed by members, by individual members, and whatever's being stated by members, at the end of the day, need to respect their position, their opinion. Conseiller Elise? You are on mute, Conseiller Elise.
Okay, and I'm looking at the agenda, and first of all, the collective agreement doesn't have to be in camera because what we need to vote, and you need to vote public anyways. The negotiation has been done. We were not part of it, so it will go public. And then as far as what the commissioner said, you were right, but anywhere in the letter said we were in a conflict that we have to, he said it would be appropriate. In my case, I don't, like I said, I will not attend closed meeting for nothing yet till there's another second one, and I'm not in a conflict of interest, and you all know that because it's over, the case is closed, and like you're the one that brought it up again, not in a conflict of interest, so I'm not declaring conflict of interest, I'm not going into a closed meeting either, so, and I have the right to do that till, and Conseiller Yvon said his state, so Madame Mayor.
Okay.
Could I
This
just,
is my
could I just follow up, please?
You know what, when it comes to declaration of conflict, Councillor Chris, you're debating why members should not be doing the disclosure. And at the end of the day, we all have our opinions and everyone has a right to vote the way
It's not
that
an opinion.
he or she
I
or
don't-
wish.
May I follow up?
What do you have to say which would be
Well,
different than what has been
what I have to say
stated?
is, what I have to say is that we're entitled to legal advice, and you know, it's one thing to be in a conflict of interest and not declare it, and to say, oh, I don't have to declare. You have a legislative duty, and you know, it's not good for government to do this kind of thing. So you guys go ahead. If you know, if you insist, and we have to go through the courts and treat you like criminals so we can speak to a lawyer, then that's what we'll do. Thank you.
You know what, Councillor Chris, the personalized comment about, you know, treating us as criminal is really inappropriate and sort of offensive. At the end of the day, you know what, there are procedures to follow if one does not disclose, and if they would be. And you make reference to the issue, the right of having a legal opinion pertaining to the item of potential defamation. You know, that opinion was sort of shared with everyone, because at the end of the day, that confidential document had been sent to the municipal legal team, and you got a response pertaining to it. So let's not allude to the fact that there was no information shared to members of council that want to speak to the municipal legal team. Councillor Denis, Councillor Elise, we don't vote on declaration, but hopefully we'll be able to move on to the resolution. Councillor Denis?
So speaker,
You are on mute, Councillor Denis.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Fisher about conflicts of interest. I think he's not in a position to judge anybody else. I think he's had a few encounters that he should have declared. He didn't. That's his option. And to vote on your own conflict of interest, that's not right either, but that's your option. So I don't think you you have the right to judge us, to call us criminals at this point. It's very unprofessional on your part. So you shouldn't be throwing rocks in a glass house, Mr. Fisher or Councillor Fisher.
Okay.
I have an issue, Madam Mayor, I have an issue with 5.3. I thought that was voted on, and that was gone. Why is it still on the agenda? Didn't we vote against that and vote against the reconsideration? So I don't know why that's there. Maybe somebody can explain it to me.
Well, I'll direct the question to
we had the answer. It was provided by the CEO that yes, it was defeated, so it should be a reconciliation, and we did not accept, and it's still there. So
Okay, so before we get into the debate of subject matters on the agenda, we need to move on from number one, which is a declaration of pecuniary interest. There was no declaration done, and there's no resolution to that matter to be voted on. So we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the addendum and agenda resolution.
Point of order, Madam Mayor. I've had my hand up and I wish to speak.
Councillor Dan? Yes, please proceed. Do you have a question?
I have a point. I find it's a travesty that Councillor Lees has already stated that she does not want to go into a closed session. There's an item there that we've been toiling with for the last 2 years. And I feel that this council should be and must address the situation.
There's a point of order, Madam Mayor.
Tonight.
This is not procedure. Point of order, Madam Mayor. He's not following procedure.
Aren't I allowed to speak?
If you have a comment, wait till we get to that
No.
subject matter. We
What?
got
No,
we
Councillor.
gotta wait
Okay,
till we start the
please,
meeting, for God's sake.
Please,
We don't need your-
Councillor Denis,
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Denis,
Yes.
Please abstain. The floor was not provided. Conseiller Dan, you say that Conseiller Lise made reference to how she would vote on a resolution and that you don't find that's appropriate. Is that your point of order?
I'm sorry, that's not what I said either.
Conseiller Lise, just a second, please.
My point of order is that what's happened here is that we have asked more than once that we address the situation, and it's under 5.2, that we address it tonight because it's a carryover of 2 years of going back and forth. What is there to hide? All I want,
Okay,
and all I,
Conseiller Dan, I
that we
will
go to the
rule
closed
on your
session.
point of order, Conseiller Dan. As I stated to others, we're not debating the content of agenda items until we get to that resolution. Right now, we've dealt with the declarations. That issue has been resolved. Now, once we get to the agenda items, we can debate those items. So we need to move on to the addendum and agenda. So the
Mayor?
first resolution, Conseiller Leo,
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, we have our corporate lawyer here this evening, Mr. Music, and I think he should I ask a question to him through you, Madam Mayor?
okay, can we wait till we get to the agenda item to deal with those matters, Conseiller Leo? Because right now, we're picnicking or we're selecting items on the agenda and we need to follow the agenda. So that would be greatly appreciated that everyone would do that. So we move on to the addendum and agenda. We don't have an addendum added this evening, so there's no resolution for that. The record of non-quorum for 2.2, 2.3, we don't adopt a resolution for that. The first resolution is to deviate from the normal agenda format. Would there be a mover and a seconder for that resolution? Conseiller Chris. Conseiller Rowley.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Whereas section 9.9.1 of the procedural bylaw sets out the format of council agendas, and whereas section 9.2 of the procedural bylaw permits council to adjust the order of the agenda matters by a resolution of 2/3 of the members present, and whereas council agrees to amend the order of the agenda for June 7th, 2022, in order to address matters impacting municipal operations and residents of the municipality, be it therefore resolved that the order of the June 7th, 2022 agenda be amended.
Those in favor, en faveur? Defeated?
Can we state why though we're not voting for it, Madam Mayor?
I saw 4 hands up. Conseiller Lise?
Well, I want to say, because I like to give a why that I'm not voting for it, is because at some point of time, I think we should go back to the order, because I think we missed about 14 to 16 meetings since last September. And if we go back, if we get there, that's fine, but we'll be able to deal with business, because I think the closed meeting agenda is definitely not the majority of all that's happening on a meeting, and we would have dealt with a lot of meeting even if we don't go to enclosed camera. And that's the reason I'm not voting for it, because we have to go back to normal, and then at the closed session we'll deal with that. So
if the resolution to deviate from normal agenda format is defeated, direction to the CEO, is the format of the agenda retabulated this evening to be able to follow as per our procedural bylaw?
Well, through you, Madam Mayor, you're treading into uncharted territories once again. So it's a new educational experience. So first of all, the reason for the amending of the agenda was the fact that we were backlogging, and as Mr. Belchamber suggested in his presentation to you, council decisions are made by resolution. So what we tried to do is put all of those decisions, resolutions to the front and chop them off so we can get them off quickly and at least move on, because the operations are not moving on. My initial interpretation is the next item is the agenda as presented. And if the agenda is defeated as presented, or any amendments are defeated, then the agenda is defeated and then the meeting is closed. That would be my best guess without better advice that I would have to look into. So there was a resolution to deviate, which we've honored to try and get by some stuff. And then we basically would pass the agenda. But if there would be amendments proposed to the agenda, you can deal with it that way and say, I propose that parts of the closed session move to the back or what have you. But that it would be an onerous task. But that would be, in my opinion, the process you would follow.
Your speaker, Madam Mayor.
Sorry. If I understand correctly, there's a resolution to deviate from the normal agenda format, which needs 2/3 majority. That is defeated. And I believe from what I've heard, and my personal opinion is that we've had old business at the beginning, old business moved further down. There's been a lot of business of concerns for our residents, which sometimes have been put at the beginning, put back at a later time. I understand the resolution to try pressing operational issues, but it's also pressing, for our constituents, in fairness, having issues that date back to before Christmas. So if the format of the agenda is not followed as per our policy, it means that we're not dealing with this agenda as being presented, right? There's a reason why we have that agenda, that resolution.
I don't know of an option I think you have a resolution right after, which is a resolution based on approving the agenda as presented. Now, if the agenda as presented for this meeting doesn't meet your needs, then you would propose an amendment. But if you're asking us before we table a resolution to go back to the drawing board, I would like direction from council on that, but I would also suggest that could be very onerous because the preparation of agendas is no small thing from the clerk's department and the staff that get together and do it. So I respect your position, but I don't know that amending an agenda or moving things forward without having the discussion right now as to what your preferences are, and hopefully there's consensus. I don't see the meeting going forward.
So your recommendation is that we proceed with a vote for the resolution to approve the agenda as presented?
That's the simplest way to do it. And then hopefully, obviously, I can probably guess that one, but we'd have to come back, down the line.
Okay.
Communication from, yeah.
Procedure question.
Councillor Elise?
Well, I know there were some hand, but I mean, it's talking about that. But the reality is we have a procedure that's saying that the regular meeting would have that in there. I don't have it in front of me. I could find it because it's not far. But I mean, that we follow the regular pattern. That's what we want to do. So don't need to defeat the agenda if that's what I don't think that the solution. If we don't want to, everything can stay at the agenda, we'll go by the order that we do, because there's a lot of things you're talking about resolution, Mr. CEO. I mean, there were a couple of them, they did not have resolution before tonight. So, and they've been there, that's been ongoing, that it's there. So we just wanted to go back, and if we deal with the thing we can, and we like the regular procedure that said, oh, we should manage our meeting. That's what I'm saying, and I don't know why we cannot do that and we have to defeat it or what, but that's a procedure. So that's my
Well,
thought.
without being too tongue in cheek, I don't know either how, we can't follow it. But that being said, we haven't been able to follow it. And that the business of the corporation has been delayed by whatever opinion or political decision you at the table have for whatever reason. And I'm not entering that. Then it comes to me as the CAO with my senior team that are here about trying to find ways to prioritize things to keep us going. And yes, that takes a bit of a leave, and normally it wouldn't be necessary, but we don't also have somebody from municipal affairs watching us as well, and we don't have a consultant forcing elections. So, let's agree that this term isn't quite according to Hoyle. And my issue is, yes, in retrospect, if I'd have known that, and there would have been some debate, perhaps we could have handled it a little bit sooner, but hindsight's 2020. The issue that I have now is the proper way to do it now that the agenda has been set is to vote on the agenda or propose amendments. So if you have an idea of what you would like to see first, propose an amendment and hopefully that'll be approved. And then at that point, we can continue at that point and then adopt the agenda as amended. That's the real way of doing that.
Okay, so the resolution to deviate defeated. The fact that was defeated with the suggestion of the CEO is to proceed with the resolution to adopt the agenda. Conseiller Denis, mover, or do you have a question?
Cannot hear.
I know, Conseiller Elise.
I have a question, Madam Mayor. If we defeat the resolution to deviate from normal agenda format, don't we defer to the normal agenda format, whatever that is, in our policies? So we should go and follow that from now on if that's been defeated. That's the way I see it. I'm not sure. That's just an opinion. Thank you. That's what I think. Because we do have a normal agenda format that we used to follow, and we never did have closed meetings at the start like this. So let's revert back to that normal agenda format and continue. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess what we'll have to do is move on. If I understand correctly, it's too time consuming to be able to deviate and change the agenda format on the spur of the meeting. We need to look at the agenda, vote on the agenda, and if there are some proceed from there. That's what I'm hearing from the CEO. Is there a mover and a seconder for the resolution for the agenda? Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Dan.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Rivera. It resolved that the agenda for the meeting of council held on June 7th, 2022 be approved as presented.
Those in favor of FR?
We gotta accept it. We gotta accept it. We don't have to accept closed meeting.
Okay, so
Councillor Hall, are you saying that you want to accept it, yes or no? Madam Mayor, he's making
I
a
was
comment.
just going
We
to
heard it.
ask Conseiller Dan. I was
Don't
just
be
going
rude,
to
Madam
ask.
Mayor.
I'm
Don't be
not
rude.
being rude. Who's chairing the meeting? I
You
wanted
are
to
being
ask
rude.
I was going to ask for everyone that supports the resolution for the agenda, please raise your hands so it is noticeable and able to be viewed by all. So je vois 1, 2, 3, 4. So c'est ça que je vois comme c'est là.
However, Madam Mayor,
So that would mean
Councillor
that,
Yvon had made a comment that he wanted to vote for it.
let me ask Conseil Yvon, he's not a child, that's why I asked a second time, due to the fact of your comment, Conseil Dan.
Don't be
And I've
rude.
asked a second time, I'm not being
Madam Mayor,
rude,
Madam Mayor,
you just need to be patient.
that's intimidation here. Mr. Rivera, you have no business intimidating anybody on this council.
Councillor Denis, you have no.
So the debate, there's
floor.
no debate right now. And I've asked a second time to see the show of hands, those that do approve the agenda for this evening. And I've seen 4 hands that were raised. Conseil Yvon, do you support the agenda, yes or no?
Well, I don't support the format, but I will support the interest of the agenda.
Okay, so the agenda is approved. Now, the urgent business that we see here is the award for design for Champlain Bridge
No, Madam
replacement.
Mayor, we gotta follow the agenda now because that's not, we didn't change nothing.
Conseillis, that's what I'm doing, urgent business number 3.
Oh,
Here,
I'm
you
sorry.
know,
I apologize. I didn't see that.
I wish, you know, people
Yeah.
should raise their hands if they wish to be able to have the floor. And if
Sorry.
I do miss anyone, I don't object to someone voicing it, but until, show your hands, and then this way the floor will be allowed. So coming to the urgent business number 3, award for design for Champlain Bridge replacement. I see that we have Mr. Alan Carell as a guest amongst us. So I'll ask through our CEO.
We need to table the resolution, Madam Mayor.
That's right. But I just want to confirm with the CEO, will it be Mr. Carell that speaks on the subject matter?
Thank you, Mr. Carell, for attending. If there are technical issues, certainly Mr. Carell would be the
Okay,
on the project.
okay. Is there a mover and a seconder for the resolution? Conseil Yvon, Conseil Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas on January the 18th, 2022, Council awarded the engineering design services for the rehabilitation of the Champlain Bridge to EXP Services, Inc. And whereas the engineers have determined that the rehabilitation of the bridge is not cost effective and have recommended replacement. And whereas the preliminary engineering has already been completed by EXP Services, Inc., it is cost effective and efficient to award the design of the replacement bridge to EXP Services, Inc. Be it therefore resolved that EXP Services, Inc. be awarded the design for the replacement of the Champlain Bridge in the amount of $313,340 plus tax.
Okay, so we all got correspondence pertaining to the subject matter. So I'll leave it to Mr. Carell and leave it to our CEO to provide an overview of exactly what the work consists of, what the project is, and the timeline, and then open up the floor for any questions by members of council.
Go ahead, Mr. Carell.
Yes, I think everybody got a copy of my memorandum. Basically, I'll just read it quickly. Our engineering consultant, EXP, quickly came to the opinion that the municipal's best interest is to build a new bridge rather than rehabilitate the existing. The rehabilitation would have only extended the life of the bridge for about 30 years at a cost of about $4 million. And they also ascertained we couldn't widen the bridge or enhance pedestrian crossings or add any water and sewer services. And those are things we wanted to do. And building a new bridge would allow for an enhanced pedestrian crossing and water and sewer services. And the cost of the bridge is about $6 million as opposed to the $4 million. The additional cost is the building of the temporary bridge at about $3 million. And the consultant did do a preliminary design to determine it was feasible. So the total cost of the project is $313,000. What I didn't write in my report is $100,000 that is geotechnical work on the bridge, new bridge, and the temporary bridge. So that really brings down the actual. There's not much difference in whether you're designing a new bridge or you're rehabilitating the bridge as far as the engineering costs are concerned. It is my recommendation that we change the scope of the project to construct a new bridge. We received a proposal from the consultant to do the work on the temporary bridge with $100,000 and the new bridge $211,000. And we've only spent $9,000 of the original $132,000. And it would bring our total to $322,000. And it's still under the connecting link agreement. We can spend up to $450,000, I believe, before an MTO is going to be paying 90% of it. And we put in our budget 10% of it. So we have the money in the budget and we have the money from MTO. It's already set aside. And the funding indicates we are required to complete the project by the end of 22. And that's why it's becoming an urgent matter. I guess when I wrote this report in April, we had about a month's play in it, but now we're getting really close to meet their deadlines. We can always ask MTO for approval to extend it, but it'd be better not to have to do that. But so I think we can still get it done in time, as long as we give the consultants the go ahead soon. It is also my recommendation, I think municipality consider when we're doing the temporary bridge, we're paying about $600,000 for that temporary bridge. We may want to consider in the future is making that a permanent multi-use trail. And actually the cost would be about $3 million if we actually bought it. So we can discuss those when it gets closely, but I think just something to keep in the back of your mind that it might be really nice to have another structure across the river in that area for a multi-use trail, skidoo things. There's a lot of things we could do with it, just putting it in everybody's mind. It might be very interesting to do. And I think that's it. And you also have the EXP report, and I think I summarized it hopefully correctly. But I think it's a good idea, and I think the real problem is the steel arches underneath. They're really worried that they're decreasing in strength, and that we wouldn't be able to fix that by just fixing rivets and that sort of thing. So I think that becomes the issue. It'll probably last another 10, 15 years, but we have to get started on a replacement, or I think everything would, I think MTO agrees with it also that we should be looking at a long-term, a new bridge that's going to last 80, 90 years, just like the last one. So yeah, that's my recommendation.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to see if there's any questions or any comments. I saw Councillor Yvonne, Councillor Leo.
Thank you, Madame Medes. If I may, through you, Madame Medes, to Alan. Alan, that temporary bridge, where would that be situated?
Would be directly toward Minnehaha Bay, beside the new one. If you look at the bridge now, there used to be an old bridge. The original bridge before the Champlain Bridge was in that location. So we'd have to fix it up there. We'd probably have to blast a little bit of the, where the slope going up where the fiddle thing is in that area. I think we'd have to do some blasting there and move some of the rock to the other side to make it proper. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I would have to agree that the replacement of the bridges is very, I certainly agree with that for sure, because it's just something we're patching and later we'll have to replace anyway. So I would agree with it. Thank you very much, Alan.
Councillor Leo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment to Mr. Corral. I like the idea to maybe down the road to keep the temporary bridge, because we could always use it, but that wouldn't form part of the connecting link with the maintenance after, right?
No, that would be our bridge after. Yeah, but there wouldn't be any traffic on it. It would be mostly pedestrians, cyclists, skidoos, that sort of thing.
Perfect.
And if
Thank
you're
you.
building it for traffic for a couple of years while you're replacing the other one, I don't see why it wouldn't last for a long time for us.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Dan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, Mr. Corral, the temporary bridge, is that a double lane, or will it be just one lane?
No, it's a 2-lane bridge. It'll be almost when you're going from Sturgeon to Sudbury at one of the day when they put that temporary bridge, it's going to be, might even be the same bridge exactly that they'll be putting in this area. it's Arrow makes the bridges, and that's the sort of bridge it would be. So,
Okay, thank you.
Conseil Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do concur with that bridge to stay there, even though that it's quite the expense at the end of $3 million. But there is a lot of traffic that's kind of blocked because of not having a trail from one side of the river to the next to go to local businesses. So I think it would be a great asset for West Nipissing if that bridge was to become a trail system afterwards. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Conseil Denis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, to Mr. Correll. So we're talking about the bridge of a difference of 4 million to 9 million. Is that what we're, if we go with the
Yes,
repair, it's 4 million?
yeah, 4 million to repair, but it would only last about 20 years. And this way, a brand new bridge will last a lot longer.
Mhm.
And we'd only certainly go ahead if we got the 90% funding from MTO that we're eligible for, just like we got the 90% for the engineering.
Oh, so we would get 90% for the 6 million you talk. Is that correct?
Oh, we'd get 90% for the whole 9 million,
The whole project.
the whole project.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so if there's Conseil Lise.
Well, I just want to say I support that because I mean, for the time, if it lasts 80 years versus 10, 20 years, then we would have to do it anyway. So I think it's a great plan. So thank you very much, Mr. Correll.
Okay, so from the feedback, everyone was receptive to what's being proposed and the resolution that was read. Is there any objections to it? Aucune objection. Hearing none, it's carried. Adopté. We don't have delegation and petition. We do have a resolution to be able to proceed in closed. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseil Chris, Conseil Leo.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mallette. Be it resolved that the proceeding to close meetings authorized in section 239(2) of the Municipal Act to discuss the following: personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal board or local board employees, labor relations or employee negotiations, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications regarding collective agreements for QP Locals 53501 and 02, workplace investigation reporting recommendations, and potential defamation litigation.
Those in favor, en faveur? 1, 2, 3, 4. The resolution is defeated.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Conseil Leo?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I think it's being rude to, get Mr. Vusic here for the meeting and not hear what he has to say. And I think it's being rude. I don't know. I can't stay.
Well, you're entitled to your opinion, but the resolution was defeated. So unfortunately, out of respect to the vote that was taken, we will not be proceeding in closed meeting this evening. So that was done. I'll proceed.
Madam Mayor, my hand has been up. I'd like to talk.
Conseil Dan?
Madam Mayor, I think this is a travesty. I think it's something that there's been
Just a point
on
of
the
order
table.
here.
Madam
Point
Mayor,
of
Madam
order.
Mayor, are
I
you going to
will,
leave me speak?
Conseil
Madam Mayor?
Dan,
Once again, you're going to talk over me and you're not going to let me speak. Let me speak. I'm
before
allowed
you
to
do
speak.
speak, we will
Give me
follow
the right to
procedures,
speak.
Conseil Dan.
You're not
So where
providing
is
me
our,
with the right to
a
speak, Madam
question
Mayor.
to our
You are
CEO
not-
pertaining to procedures? Conseil Dan,
Madam Mayor,
I'm trying to adhere that this council follows procedures. So
Madam
through our
Mayor, you
CEO,
know
our
that you're always
procedural bylaw states what when a
You're always
vote has
procedures,
been
Madam.
taken. Conseil Dan,
I have asked.
please be
I have-
respectful. I'm asking a question
Respectful,
through
Madam
our
Mayor, you're talking
CEO.
over me, Madam Mayor.
You know what, Conseil Dan, you don't want to respect even what the chair is doing. So through our CEO, our procedural bylaw, when a vote has been taken, do we go back and discuss the vote, or do we move on to the next item? And I wish to be able to have a precise, because section of the procedural bylaw that talks about vote. Because customarily, when you vote on an issue, discussion has been taken. And then the vote is done and you move on. Would that be correct?
I don't have, you're asking for a precise reading of the procedural bylaw. I don't have that in front of me. If I can ask the clerk who's looking at it right now, and if you can indulge us for a minute.
Through you, Madam Chair, if it states that where a vote is taken for any purpose, I'm sorry, the chairperson or the clerk shall announce the results of the vote once the vote is completed. That's about all it says.
Is it silent on the rest?
Where's,
If
After completion, that's recorded vote. No, it doesn't really say anything. It just states that once the vote is completed.
So to answer your question, normally procedurally, and the understanding is once a vote is taken, the subject is closed. So that's a chairing issue. But that would be normal or procedure as you debate the decision prior to. In this case, I'm not going to try and delve, but it's usually voting to go and close or not, and asking for the question without debate, then kind of leads, an inability for people to speak to it. So I don't know procedurally as well whether, if there's going to be a discussion for reasons, then all people should be afforded that, or if it's just, no, I just want to vote, and then there's no talking about it. But that's a chair issue.
Yeah, well, when I do read the procedural bylaw 18.3, after the chairperson commences to take a vote on a question, no member shall speak to such question or present any other motion until a vote has been taken on such question. So, once you're at the...
Madam Chair, I think you failed in your role as the chairperson.
Conseil
did not-
Dan,
Madam
are
Mayor,
you provided the floor?
You did not provide any discussion. That was
You know
my point.
what? Conseil Dan, procedurally, this is what it states, okay? No
but Madam
member
Mayor,
shall speak to
speak.
such question
Mayor.
or present
No,
until a
Madam Mayor,
vote has
you
been
did not
taken on
provide
such question.
oh my God.
And the
Madam Mayor,
chairperson shall
you
announce
did
the
not
results
provide
of the
it.
vote. Conseil Dan, if you keep on interrupting the chair as you do, consider this as your warning. Next time, I will ask you to be recused from the meeting. In
Madam
fairness
Mayor,
to
did
you,
not allow-
Conseil Dan,
Madam Mayor,
we
let me-
voted
can I
on the
speak now?
matter, we move on
No.
to the next. And
Madam
it's
Mayor, you did not
respecting the
provide-
procedures.
You did not provide us with a period to discuss it.
You know what, Conseil Dan, I'm not debating the issue. When we vote on a matter, when you vote, before voting, you have a right to discuss. But when
didn't
you
provide us
vote
with-
and
you
you do
didn't let
not
us-
discuss, that is your prerogative.
No, you didn't let us discuss
So
it.
at the end of the day, the chair states the vote was done, we follow the procedures, and
You're
we
not
move
following
on to the next item. And if you interrupt the chair one more time, I will stop the meeting and ask you to be recused, and hopefully that will not have to occur. Thank you. So we move on to
Madam Mayor, my hand is up.
Conseil Rowley. Is
Thank
it
you,
to
Madam
dis-
Thank you, yes. Yes, it's just a comment that this is killing the municipality. This is all that it's doing. Just to be stubborn on each side, it's killing the municipality. On the advice of the Integrity Commissioner.
Point
Why
of
don't
order,
we
Madam
just
Mayor,
go
point of
into
order. Come on,
Order, man,
point
it
of
doesn't
order.
make sense.
Come
You know
on.
what?
You know what, here we are discussing matters that are not even on the agenda, and what does our policy state? And our policy, we voted on the matter, we should be moving to the next matter. And shaking our heads or whatever, I should also refrain from personal opinions and will refrain from doing so. So what we do now is we move on to the unfinished business.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
State your point of order.
My point of order is that you did not provide us with a debate before we did the vote. That's what I'm trying to say.
Why did you vote, Conseil Dan, without speaking up?
Because Madam Mayor, you forced past
You
everybody
know
really
what? I'm not
fast.
debating the subject matter. I'm trying to follow what the procedures are saying. The vote has been done when you vote. And if you wanted to debate it prior to voting, you had the prerogative to do so. You failed to debate the matter and lifted your hand and voted.
Because I was not allowed.
Oh, mon Dieu. Okay. So if we want to be able to streamline and move forward with the agenda to get some business done that's identified on the agenda, unfinished business, the next item is 6.1, resolution to ratify collective agreement. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseil Alice, Conseil Denis.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Denis Senecal. Be it resolved that the collective agreements between the Corporation of the Municipality of West Nipissing and the Canadian Union of Public Employees, Locus 53501 and 53502, for the period of January 1, 2022 to December 31st, 2020. I think it's a mistake. It should be 5. Is that correct?
2024.
2024. Be ratified as presented. You're on mute, Madam Mayor.
My apologies. I said through our CEO, can the question be directed, or is it possible for our Director of Corporate Services to provide an overview?
Certainly, the corporate services is our lead in HR, and I'd like to commend her for her role she took leading the negotiations. I thought they went very well, and I'll let Elisa describe the evolution as to how it, what the tentative agreement is. And by the way, it's been ratified by QP last week, so they're just awaiting. Thank you.
Thank you. So the reason that it was on the close was just if there was any concerns or any other kind of bargaining issues with that. So I'm going to assume there's none. I'm going to go forward with just the highlights of the changes. There are 2 different agreements. Some of the things apply in both agreements. So we have 3 QP agreements. This is QP1 and QP2. So there is, some financial consideration. I'm going to say an increase to the shift premiums for our shift workers that do evenings and weekends, an increase on the premium for licenses. So we do pay additional premiums for employees that have their wastewater collection, wastewater distribution, AZ licensing, licenses that are a benefit for the municipality. On both agreements, vision care increased to $475 every 24 months. Meal allowance increase. I don't think the meal allowance has moved my entire time here. Both agreements in the past, we actually had a clothing allowance for QPO1. It was taken out at the last agreement. We got it put back in, and it's in both agreements now that we have a clothing allowance for the employees rather than municipality purchasing the various clothing for them. Training premium, and that's one that encourages our sort of train the trainer kind of incentive. So we have qualified employees that are training other employees, and we're just recognizing them for that training. A lot of just cleanup with language that sort of goes along, and then the big part that everyone's waiting for is a 2.75% increase for 3 years is what what's sitting in the proposal, and that reflects what inflation is right now. We've had really low increases over the last 2 collective agreements. So this is a big change, but it does just reflect what the economy is right now.
Excuse me, Melanie. Somebody's waiting to be let into the meeting. Thank you.
And I'll open the floor to see if there's any questions or comments, but I believe that okay, we have lost Conseil Dan. I was just going to ask. Okay, so we don't have any technical problems? Okay, perfect. Just quickly, what is the distinction between QP1 and QP2?
So QP2 is our water and sewer employees, so the employees that are at our water and wastewater plants. QP1 is the rest of the municipal employees.
Okay. And QP1 does not include West Nipissing Environmental Services. They have their own agreement.
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So the general wage increase is 2.75% for 3 years. Is that going to be one lump sum, or is it incremental, a certain percentage per year?
So it's the 2.75 each year. So there'll be a retro payment in for 2022, and then the increase for 2023 and an increase for 2024.
Okay, so it's every year.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions from members of council? Clear? Okay. So we had the resolution to approve both collective agreements that were negotiated and I believe stated, ratified last week. Any objections to the resolution? Aucune objection à qu'est-ce qui est présenté? None. Carried. Adopté. Since we did not proceed in closed, the 6.2 will be obsolete for this evening.
That's an agenda amendment.
Well, to accept recommendations. Okay, maybe I'm wrong, but we have a resolution here to accept recommendations pertaining to a subject matter that was scheduled to be discussed in closed.
I can't speak to it, Madam Mayor. I'm in-
Okay, no problem. I see that our Director of Corporate Services wants to be able to speak to that resolution.
So I believe the resolution should still be tabled. I mean, it was part of the agenda. It is a resolution. You
Okay.
accepted the agenda. You can choose to defer it to a future date. I do encourage council that, continuing to defer this issue or starting a deferral pattern on this issue is creates liability with the municipality. I just want council to be aware of that.
Okay. Well, we'll need a mover and a seconder for that resolution, and we'll call it to a vote to see whether or not if members want to proceed with the discussion of that resolution. Conseillère Lise?
Yes, I do have a question. I'm not in totally in agreement anyways to discuss that because we don't know, we have an ID, but I mean, we didn't see the recommendation, so I don't feel comfortable voting and even should be talked public because we don't know what's going to happen. And I don't want to say more because I don't know what's going to happen with that. So at this point of time, I would not be even feel comfortable talking
Okay,
about it.
well, we're discussing the resolution. I think before discussing it, we need a mover and a seconder so the clerk can proceed in reading the resolution. So I see Conseiller Chris hand up, Conseiller Leo as a seconder.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Mayette. Be it resolved that the recommendations dated May 20th, 22, arising from the workplace investigation report dated April 29th, 2022, prepared by Mortimer Koriak, be accepted.
Well, it's difficult to vote on a resolution when we do not know the content of the actual report. So I know personally, I will not support this resolution, but I'll call it to a vote and see who wishes to proceed with this resolution or not.
Shouldn't it be
Discussion before a vote?
That's
Shouldn't
right.
it be-
You have the right to say whatever you want to say before a vote.
Oh, I guess
It's
procedure change.
always been the same way, Conseil Dan. You can discuss, or if there's no discussion, then I call it to a vote. Our Director of Corporate Services.
Thank you. I would just like to point out that council did have the opportunity to come in to see the report and the recommendations. So it's a little bit misleading to state that you haven't seen it. I mean, that was a choice that the council made. So the recommendations and report were available. You also had the opportunity to go into closed. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. And thank you for the information, but we did not proceed to go into close to discuss this subject matter. And having not discussed the subject matter, I'm not comfortable voting on the resolution, and that's my position.
So can I make a point, please?
Conseil, I'll have to go to Conseil Dan first because his hand was up first.
Once again, I'll just repeat myself. I think it's a travesty. Madam Mayor, you had the chance to go and have a look at the report. I went in, I looked at the report as suggested by our corporate services director, and that in fact, we're putting our municipality into a liable position by enacting, and it shows that there has been something that we've been hiding, and I don't think that is right. And I think that this should have been discussed in a closed session. And again, it's a travesty.
Conseil Chris?
So I'll just make the point that we just ratified the collective agreement, which was also for debate in the closed session, and we did that, no problem at all. So I really don't see the difference.
The distinction though, Conseil Chris, is that the collective agreement was ratified. Was already approved, it was already negotiated. Let me retract my words. Both collective agreements had been approved a week ago. That's what I understood. So my understanding from negotiation is you have both parties that agreed to the negotiation, agreed to, they reached an agreement. And I would assume that there was an MOU that would have been signed, and then it comes to council to formalize it through resolution. So the info that the clerk shared was all public information.
I don't think so.
Well,
That's
when
why it
we
was not
talked
posted.
about increase, we're talking about a resolution. You know what? We already, the financial approval of the collective negotiation that was approved becomes public information in the public forum. And that's why our Director of Corporate Services shared those details. Conseil Rowley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Anybody voting against going into close or not dealing with this is putting the municipality in big jeopardy. Okay, a liability, and our corporate services just mentioned it. So I don't think this is doing a service to our taxpayers at all. Thank you.
Conseil Alice, Conseil Denis?
Well, the fact remains, there are so many things that's happening in the last 4 years that been so much money spent for a big zero nothing in my book, and that's my opinion, which I have the right. I mean, we have the right to decide if we do something, and you can challenge it, which West challenged it and came back. I will not discuss anything that was in closed camera tonight because we did not go into closed camera. And as far as the agreement that we're talking about, I remember correctly about 2.5 years ago that the same thing was posted into camera. And then when Madame Mayor said, well, there's an understanding, whatever that was signed, it was done. So it's public information. So that's why tonight I spoke about it, because it was not denied that was public information. It was agreed last week. So, and it's public. It should be put on the West Nipissing site or whatever to say that was done because it's public information. So it's not the same at all in my book. And also I'm going to say a comment that I don't have any karma saying that people have accusing and call name and this and that, it's all her fault. Well, you know what? Look in the mirror and take responsibility, all of you, for what's been done, because this council, I agree with all of you, has ruined what's happening in West Nipissing, just because, in my opinion, people wants to control, and when we're trying to do some good, there's always I take no, they say what they want to say. It's pertaining to that. And I think we should stick and stop being calling name and using big facts, fancy name when you cannot even have respect for your colleague. That's what I'm saying.
Councillor Elise, we're focusing on
thank you.
Councillor Elise, we're focusing on the resolution. Councillor Denis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that I find it hypocritical that councillors, when it's they feel like it, like today, that we're putting the municipality in jeopardy, but that they can log out for 16 meetings, but that's not putting the municipality in jeopardy. I mean, if you wear it, if you do it, wear it. So we haven't disconnected. So maybe once tonight, you feel like you should be pushing for the municipality, but you should have done that a long time ago before canceling 16 meetings. Thank you very much.
Okay, we're not discussing cancellation of meetings. We're discussing a resolution for a workplace investigation report. Conseiller Leo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Lee's comment about that's your right to speak to it, and that's your right, and that's the same with us. Some of you are denying our right to talk to our municipal lawyer, and you're denying our right.
You know, at the end, I think we were forewarned by an individual that was appointed by the province to be a facilitator in helping us and fill the vacancy. This debate started via email last week. And I stated that since this is a contentious issue, and that we're in the process of filling vacancies, the vacancy of Ward 7, that I don't think that it will put the municipality at risk or any liability by withholding proceeding with this once we have that seat filled. And that was my personal opinion. And the irony of it all, there's been workplace investigation report till this day that closed session meeting minutes have not been reported to council. So I'm just saying my reason why I will not support the resolution is I still stand behind contentious issue. We are proceeding and filling vacancy 7, and we'll have a full complement of council. And 2, before I discuss any future workplace investigation report, I would also ask that we have the closed session minutes for a previous investigation that took place, and that there's no recording with the municipality regarding to that event. That's my position.
Madam
Our Director of Corporate Services.
I just wanted to clarify for council, because you expressed an opinion that you don't believe it increases the liability to wait until the position is filled or to wait until we have all these other minutes approved. Your opinion's incorrect. The liability exists now. It continues to grow. It's the liability for the health and safety and the mental well-being of all the employees of the municipality, and continuing to defer it to future dates absolutely increases the liability of the municipality. And you can choose not to vote on it now. You can choose to defer it, but understand that absolutely increases the liability of the municipality.
Okay, may I state that, both dated April 29, May 20th was brought to our attention, last week? So does it mean that we need to act on it in the spur of the moment within a short window, and that reduces
Point of
the
order,
liability.
Madam
Conseiller Dan, you know what? I provided everyone with the opportunity and I'm asking a question. I'm asking the question since it was brought to our attention
It's a point
last
of
week.
order, Madam Mayor. Can I?
Conseiller
present
Dan,
a point of order?
you know
I
what,
have the
Conseiller
right-
Dan?
I have the right to present a point of order.
Yes, you introduce your point of order once the person has finished. I have not finished. I was directing a question to our Director of Corporate Services. So you know what? It'll be irrelevant, my question. I stated my position. What is your point of order, Conseiller Dan?
My point of order was that you're making an instrument, you're making a comment that this just became on the agenda from the dates that you just stated. That is not true. There is this file is more complex than that, and we have been neglected to address it for the last 2 years. That's
Point
my
of
point.
order, Madam Mayor, point of order. Can I do a point of order?
No,
Mr.
before your
Dan?
point of
No?
order, I will leave
Okay.
one point of order at a time. Okay, the first that council was informed, Conseiller Dan, I will respond to your point of order. This is a new workplace
Mayor,
investigation.
It's not.
This is a new workplace
Continuation of another
investigation. Conseiller Dan, you raised the point of order saying that this has been dragging on, very complex, it relates to another file. This specific file,
Madam Mayor, may I recuse myself?
you know
This-
what, to the CEO, you have the prerogative to recuse yourself. It's not dictated by council or by myself.
I'm leaving the meeting as
Okay,
this is touching too close. Thank you. Have a
it
good night.
is, it is. The email notified to council was dated May 30th. My understanding today, we are which date? We are June 7th. So to imply that this has been dragging on for years is not entirely accurate. So that is your response to your point of order, Conseiller Dan. Conseiller Alice, your point of order? You are on mute, Conseiller Alice. Conseiller Alice, you are on mute.
I am trying because I pressed the wrong button and I was gone completely, so I'm back. My point of order is that, first of all, it's what we're discussing thing about matter that we should not be discussing because it was not discussed in camera. And the second really major problem that I have right now is again, and I'm going to say use the word that is being used by a certain counselor. Again, it seems that because I have no clue, if she said so, the person responsible for corporate services that I don't know how to call anymore because I'm not supposed to call her madam and all the counselor is doing it. So the person responsible for the corporate services stated very clear that it need to be discussed, but we did not see the document for whatever reason. I apologize, believe me or don't believe me, I did not see your email because guess what? I'm trying to stay away from the municipal email because it's never good news, okay? So, and I've been working all day, so that's one of the reasons. Secondly, it seemed, because I don't know what the recommendation are, I don't know how liable that we have. But again, if I hear about whatever Councillor Dan is saying, speaking tonight, he seems to know everything. So how come we don't know anything? How come?
Okay.
So that's my
I think
question,
we
Madam
need-
Mayor.
Because
We are not here to personalize issues. We have the resolution, but what I'm understanding, some are in favor, some are not. So I think we've done a roundtable. Our CEO has recused himself. The resolution has been read, and
I
we
wanna-
need to call it to a vote.
Madam Mayor, I'd like a recorded vote.
You have a right for a recorded vote, and I'll direct it to the clerk.
Getting so organized here. Counselor Duhane,
No comment.
is that a no or a yes?
That would be a no.
Counselor Duhane,
I'm not voting.
that's an abstention. Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Larrabee,
Yes.
Counselor Ravita,
Yes.
Counselor Denise Senecal.
No.
I'm sorry, I missed Counselor Millet. My
No.
apology.
Yes.
Counselor Lee Senecal,
Nope.
defeated.
On procède avec la prochaine résolution. Rehabilitate Highway 539 and 805 due to the delay. There's a resolution for that. A mover and a seconder. Conseiller Chris, is there a seconder? Conseiller Broley,
It is moved by Counselor Fisher and seconded by Counselor Larrabee. Whereas at the meeting of council held on July the 13th, 2021, council received a presentation from the Ministry of Transportation through its consultants, DM Wills Engineering and LEA Consulting, Inc., outlining upgrades to be carried out on highways 539 and 805. And whereas council passed a resolution 2021-282 on August the 30th, 2021, authorizing the temporary full closures of highway 539 and 805 for the 2022 or 2023 construction seasons to allow the required upgrades to the highways, including replacement and or rehabilitation of multiple culverts. And whereas on January the 10th, 2022, the municipality received new information from the consultant advising that MTO has pushed back the scheduled rehabilitation of highways 539 and 805 by 1 year. And whereas the consultant contractor is seeking an amendment to resolution 2021-282 in order to reflect the new proposed construction dates, be it therefore resolved that council for the West Nipissing municipality is agreeable to the anticipated temporary full closure of highways 539 and 805 as necessary in order to complete the rehabilitation and multiple rapid culvert replacements between River Valley and Warren as follows. Highway 539, 3-week full closure Monday to Friday, reopening on weekends, summer 2023. And Highway 805, 1-week full closure Monday to Friday, reopen on weekends, fall 2023. And be it further resolved that all other requirements as set out in resolution 2021-282 shall remain in effect and be adhered to, with which such requirements shall include but not limited to proper detour signage, notification to local residents, and coordination with emergency services.
if I recall correctly, we had been presented this amended project timeline. However, Conseiller Rowley had brought up the issue that there had been a request that had been done to MTO to at least have one of the highways that would be not load restricted for commercial, industrial, and all other activities. So the plan was to get more detail from MTO, bring this information forward so we could proceed with this. Conseiller Rowley, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the idea was to get MTO to build it to a better standard. So yes, that we would no longer have half load restrictions in the spring months due to the activity of the mining in the area, the exploration and whatnot. So if the MTO are asking to push this project back for 1 year, if they could guarantee that they would build the road to a better standard, then that would be agreeable. If not, this road is a mess right now. And I would not suggest MTO to push it back. If they cannot guarantee a better road for us in the future, it needs to be addressed. Like it's just horrible. It's broken to pieces.
So right now, what you're saying is that, bonus if they can bring one of the roads up to a level where it doesn't have to be a half load restriction, but due to the current state of the current road, you feel comfortable because of the condition that council should approve this, and hopefully with future dialogue, that to find out if MTO would at least bring one of those roads up to a standard where it doesn't have to be a half load restriction. Is that a correct summary?
Yes, that is correct, Madam Mayor. And also, if the work is pushed back 1 year, if they could increase the maintenance on that road for this year.
Okay.
Thank you.
Conseil Dan?
Councilor fully aware of the complaints that we've been receiving from the people that live on that road. In as much as people have been commenting that the road right now is not navigable. And unfortunately, the mining industry have using the road, I guess, a little more than the residents would want. The increase, I guess, for my information purpose, is what it would mean that the highway would be at a different level, that it would not be, not chip and tar, it would be paved. And then that's why if it was paved, then we would not have any restrictions for half loads. I see Councillor Rowley nodding, so I guess that's what the conclusion is. However, the point is that the ministry has basically said that they're putting it off for another year, and I think the public should be aware of that, because I don't think all public know that the project has been put off for 2023 because of other priorities. And I totally agree with Councillor Ladaby's plea that we get back to the minister, MTO, and ask that, due to the fact that they are postponing it to 2023, that they come back with a proposal to asphalt it and not have tar and paste, tar and I don't know what the term is, the legal term.
Chip and tar.
Chip and tar. So thank you, because we are getting a lot of complaints, and that we make a request to MTO that we at least try to fix some of the potholes, because apparently the potholes are pretty extensive.
There are two options right now. We're dealing with a resolution for rehabilitation, which is deferred from the initial resolution that was adopted. There are concerns being expressed pertaining to the current state of the road and also to the future need of the road. Is there an amendment to be provided to this resolution identified as a consideration to MTO, or to put what is being said on record? And if yes, well then I would need someone to propose an amendment and someone to second the amendment. Because we're talking about road condition, bad state, and we're also saying that we would hope that MTO considers, when they do the rehabilitation, that they bring one of the highways to a higher standard to avoid half load. So do we want that as an amendment to this resolution?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would like to make that motion, please.
I will second it. I think what we should do should ensure that we're very specific. One of the roads has already been completed, so it's out of the question. It's the road going from River Valley to Warren that has to be done in 2023. And that is the one that we're more or less specifically, well, not we're saying that's the one that should be moved to the asphalt and not to chip and tar.
Okay, so when we say one of the roads have been completed, which road has been completed so far?
From Field to River Valley, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, but here it doesn't say Field to River Valley. Here it's
No,
530.
The 539 was done in increments. the first 2 years was from Field to River Valley, and the preceding 2 years was supposed to be from River Valley to
Okay,
Warren.
but the actual resolution that we're reading is 539. They were specific between the area that they were proposing and that the work would be done on weekends throughout the summer 2022. Highway 805, 1 week full closure, Monday to Friday, spring 2023. Now, if we're going to identify that there's a specific section of those two highways which is not navigable, that requires remedial, that requires immediate attention, which is it?
539. The 539
Okay.
would need to be better patched if the MTO was to push it back 1 year.
Oh,
Then it needs to be better maintenance, have better maintenance on it for this year. And hopefully next year, when they do a better base and also real pavement on it.
okay. So we're saying that we hope that MTO considers in fixing the current state of 539 and hope, and that's one of the proposed amendments, along with an investment on either or for a higher standard for no half load.
That is
I'm just
correct.
trying to give direction to the clerk.
Yeah, that is correct. What you just stated, 539 from River Valley to Warren.
Okay. So do you have that? I'm asking our clerk to see, just because I see that she's putting notes together.
I just, so the amendment is that the current state of Highway 539 from River Valley to Warren be fixed in the interim, and that the work that is to be done to a higher standard to preclude having to place half-load restrictions.
That is correct.
Would we identify that work be done on one of the highways to a higher standard? Is it either or?
No.
No?
No, because one's already done. You can't go back on that one. Like Councilor
Okay.
Rowley.
Is that what you're saying, Conseil Rowley? 539 be brought to a higher standard?
That is correct.
Okay,
The proposed work for 2022, which will be put to 2023, be built at a higher standard.
okay.
Can I just, I got Councillor Larrabee as a mover to that amendment. Can I just get a seconder to the amendment, please? Councillor Dan? So we'll vote on the amendment. I guess goes first and then the rest of the resolution.
That's correct. So with the resolution as amended, to look at remedial and to look at the future work at a higher standard to allow the road to be without half load. So that is the amendment right now. So those in favor of the amendment? Carried. Okay, so we have a request for no cut policy exemption. So do we have a resolution for both exemption being requested?
They're combined.
They're combined. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseil Elise, Conseil Yvon.
It is moved by Councillor Lee Senecal and seconded by Councillor Zerhain. Whereas at the meeting held on June 7, 2022, Council received requests from residents seeking authorization for an exemption from the municipal no-cut policy number 2009-268 in order to proceed with the installation of natural gas services to their homes on Fort Road, Concord Road, and Lalonde Road in Sturgeon Falls. Be it therefore resolved that Council authorizes a one-time exemption of the West Nipissing municipal no-cut policy in order to proceed with the installation of natural gas services at the following locations: 274 Fort Road, 29 Concord Road, 18 Concord Road, and Leland Road, Lot 7, Plan 36M 682.
Questions, comments? Conseil Dan?
I was advised that this road was done in 2018. Our no cut policy states 5 years. However, we've done some cutting in other areas on that road. I'm just wondering if we have any other advice from staff on that.
Well, I'll direct the question to our CEO because I can't see the response. We had the email that dated back to November 2021. So I'll pass it on to our CEO. Did we get any feedback from Public Works regarding the actual road?
Yes. Public Works and staff maintain that the policies that council approved are policies for a purpose. And so the policies that staff, follow or council made policies, and they are logical policies with respect to protecting the integrity of the road for at least a period of time and eliminating these one-offs. So then it becomes more of a council decision. But if you ask staff, and I have asked staff this several times since it's been delayed, and their indication is, preference for staff, we're responsible for roads. So it's there for a reason. Now, if there are other mitigating circumstances where you want to provide an exception, that's a council discussion. Thank you.
No, but I guess to you, our CEO, Councillor Dan is making reference that the road was hard surface in 2018. Do we have the actual information of exactly when it was hard surfaced?
It was hard surface in 2018.
Or it was
Yes.
in 2018?
Yes.
Okay. And our no cut policy is normally 5 years, and if anyone wants an exemption, they come back.
That's
So
right.
customarily, staff would give us an indicator if they would recommend or not, depending where they need to cut. Is it through the entire road, or is it so many feet or so many inches? We don't have that information.
I believe that the cut is in the same fashion as the cuts that were done previously to allow Enbridge to provide services. I believe that the cuts are on the about in a portion of the road. There have been some problems with some of the issues with Enbridge, and the contractors that they use have not necessarily honored what was agreed upon, but that has been rectified, and Enbridge has told us. So really, the point I made to answer originally is that it's a 4th or 5th year road. It's, the traffic on that road, or whether it is, or, it is, whether it's a high use traffic. And that's really all I'm prepared to answer on that.
Okay, Conseil Rowley, Conseil Lise.
Thank you, Don. I usually don't have a problem accommodating if there's a few months left in the 5 years. We're looking at a year yet remaining on this no cut policy, and we don't know if it's on the side of the road. Maybe it is. So it sounds like it is, but just the same, if we're should we change our policy to 4 years or have no policy at all? So with a year remaining, if we're not going to honor, if maybe the cut would be right in where the wheels are running, and then we're damaging our roads. So I can't support it. Thank you.
Okay, but you know what? You've highlighted the issue that you're not even sure where it's going to be cut. If it's cut across the road or cut on the side of the road.
So,
And I
Madam
think those are information, facts that council needs to be able to weigh their decision.
As I indicated, Madam Mayor, my understanding was that it was on the side of the road. I've just had clarified that it is still on the side of the road, but it's about 3 to 6 feet into the road and about 3 to 6 feet along the road. And that's coming straight from somebody who's watching.
Okay.
And shouldn't be.
And the actual road, if I may, before, because it may answer the question, Concord Road, was that recently done, or is that a road that's being planned to be done?
Melanie might have more information on the development of Concord Road.
No, the part that's a new road completely.
And it's not gravel, it's gravel, right?
It will be paved eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're not dealing with that section of the road whatsoever. Okay, clarified. So Conseil Alice, Conseil Denis.
Okay, and I know we do have a policy and, but in the last 2 years, I think we had approved 5 of 6 because we do the policy provide a number saying that they need to put money on the table that if they damage the road and it's not repaired the right way, that they will have to do the repair, not the municipality, and it was applied for the 5 or 6 that we approved. I don't know if it's last year or whatever, but we can go back and I mean, I got the paper, I could find out for next week, the next meeting, but definitely we did it. So we did it for people, we have to do it for all with the same condition. The first one was refused. And then when the meeting after 2 other came and it was approved, and then that's when the discussion, we found out that there's a clause in the policy that if people are putting money, if it's 3 feet, they can know the price, they have to put, I don't know, $5,000-$10,000. And if within the time frame that the road is supposed to be redone, the 5-year, then they will use that money. And it was done for previously. So I don't see why we cannot approve it for this one because we do it. So what we can do is revise the policy and take any clause out, because right now there's that clause that we use and it's not fair if we approve somebody and we don't approve the other one. So at this point of time, I would have to approve that because we created that precedent ourselves. And there's more, I think there's 5 people that we approved in the last year. So that would be last. So thank you.
Conseil Denis.
Yes, Conseil, through you, Madam Chair, Conseiller Lise has stated what I wanted to state is that we've created a precedent in the municipality that if there's a deposit sufficient to cover any damages that will occur to the road, that we would approve it. And I think we've done it for the last 5, like she says. So I think it would be unfair to at least finish our term with that policy and maybe revise it with the next council. But I think we should, I agree, we should allow the no cut for this year. Thank you.
You are bringing up a valid point because the policy does state that depending on the length of time remaining on the road, staff will identify the amount of deposit required in the event that there are repairs that need to be done. And that amount varies according to the lifespan of the road from the date it was paved or hard surfaced till the date where the exemption is being requested. Conseil Rowley?
Just clarification, if I heard right, that road is not paved, or is it gravel? A gravel
No,
road or a paved road?
It is, no, it is hard surfaced.
It is paved road. Okay, yeah. So no, I have to stand with what I said, but I do agree. Any exemption we did, it was a few inches on the side of the road that they were cutting, not 3 feet. So and that's why I agreed. And there was 2 months left in the 5 years. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, we had hard surfaced a road in Verner, and that was quite recent, but then there was going to be a future treatment that was going to be done. But anyway, it was a freshly new hard surfaced road, just as a point of clarification. Conseil Dan, Conseil Alice?
I'm not technically knowledgeable about this, so I'm asking a question and I hope somebody can answer me. If it's 3 to 6 feet, does that go within the tire that Councillor Rowley always discussed? Is that where the tires go? And if so, how can we guarantee that Enbridge will do a good job and not have a problem like we had on the road that we did, that the exemption we provided with them on that same road. So
You're asking a technical question. The technical question should be responded by our staff.
well, I didn't say I didn't want staff to answer.
Well, we have our
Please
CEO
direct-
right
please
here,
direct the
Conseil
question.
Dan.
Please
I'm just
direct
gonna
the question
direct,
to the technical
I'm
person.
directing the question to our CEO for a response regarding your technical question.
Well, I'm going to provide an answer, and I'm going to take a leap of faith that somebody who's more technical, but I think we all drive and we're all on hard surface roads and we know the width of them. And we usually know where your outside tires are, especially for bikers and that kind of thing. So, you know, you have bike lanes that are protecting cyclists that are around 3 feet wide. So no, your tires are definitely on average, and I'd say majority, going to be going over that length. I mean, 3 feet, okay. Some people do veer wide, that's less, but the 3 to 6 feet, absolutely, tires are going over there. Thank you.
Conseil Elise? You are on mute, Conseil Elise?
God, I said one road that I remember that was done, it was completely across. So the tire, if you pass that street at that place, you had to go through that line, that's for sure, because it was across the street, because they needed the water. And I mean, that's when it started, and then we have 4 other things and we approved. So, I mean, and it's on Nipissing. I'm not gonna see the address, but it's right there. So I passed there. So it's across the street, and I got tired, so I pass over it, Councillor Larrabee, and you approve it too. You were at that meeting.
Okay, I think we asked all the questions that we could ask on the subject matter. We have the resolution beforehand. My suggestion for the future, when there are requests for exemption to our current policy, we are dependent on the actual facts provided to us by staff. It would help if we had a written report that would confirm exactly the details that would facilitate council to make a decision. But we had the information provided to us tonight. So are we ready to vote on the resolution? Conseil Elise?
I would like a deferral to have all that information, because like I said, there's 5, 6 even road that has been done, and they went across, so the tire running over it, they're putting the money down, and there were more than 1 year left on that one too. And this one, not even a year. So if we're doing it for somebody, we got to do it for everybody. And one missed out of it and had to pay from his pocket. And it was just for a small cut, but it was not approved. And then the next 5 were. So I would like to defer that so we can have all the information of all the road that I've caught in West Nipissing in the last censor term, and which one was approved, and if it crossed the road or not the road. And then we can make a decision based. And if we're creating precedent, you still can
Okay.
vote whatever you want.
So there's a request for deferral. We need a seconder for the deferral. And the reason for the deferral is that you're seeking the information of the exemptions that have been approved in the last 4 years. And a refresher of information regarding what council had approved to facilitate in helping you make the decision. That's what I hear.
Madam
Is
Mayor,
there,
Madam Mayor,
Leo,
there's
there's a
question.
request for deferral?
Just before we vote on deferral, I just asked one question. I think that request was over a year ago, right?
Okay, but the request in front, we normally, the request dates back to 2021. From the documentation we have in front of us, the proponents, the landowners, It dates back to 2021. And so there's a motion on the floor for deferral. There's a seconder that's required. Is there someone that was willing to second the deferral so council receives a report on the exemptions provided throughout this term?
Chris Fisher,
Conseiller Chris,
second.
and then we have to vote on the deferral. So those in favor that,
Discussion, sorry, isn't there any discussion?
once there's a motion for deferral, and the reason for the deferral is that we get a report that comes back to council, and customarily a deferral will state a timeline. That would be at our next Public Works Committee meeting.
But why do we defer? I don't get this. What it has,
Conseiller Dan,
it has nothing
anyone
to do
has,
with what we're
Conseiller
deciding.
Dan, anyone has the right to put in a request for deferral. The reason is Conseiller Elise wishes a refresher detailed as some information of the no cut, the exemptions provided throughout the last 4 years and what the no cut involved. She feels that this information is vital because she wants to know about the precedents, and she's put in the request for deferral. Conseiller Chris seconded the deferral.
Procedurally, why
And
don't we vote on it?
procedurally, we need to vote on the deferral first. We're following procedures, that's what it states.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Your procedure.
okay. You know what? We'll put it a stop here because I'm tired of these allegations. They are not my procedures. Let's go through the procedural bylaw where it talks about deferrals. And if I may indulge,
Just for the deferral.
just a second, Conseiller Dan. You throw a challenge, they are not. A motion to defer must include a reason for the deferral, which was stated, and a time certain to which the matter is being deferred. So here, proposed to the next Public Works Committee meeting, a motion to refer or defer shall take precedence over any other motion or amendment, except a motion to adjourn, for the exception of a motion to adjourn. So these are not fabricated by the chair or the mayor. They are your procedures, and you are to know your procedures. So coming back to the motion for deferral,
I know my
there was
procedure.
a request. It was
Staff-
seconded.
That
It was
is-
seconded. Conseiller Dan, you do not have the floor.
No, I know.
So we have that motion on the table and we have to call it to a vote. The reason is stated and it was identified at Public Works Committee meeting. So we have to vote on this resolution. So those in favor of the deferral. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Approved.
Motion for a break.
Okay, Conseiller Chris, so you're moving a resolution for a break? Are you
Recess break.
proposing a recess? Are you proposing according to procedures or beyond the timeline and procedures?
No, just, well, 10 minutes is good by me.
Okay, is there a seconder? Conseiller Elise?
So just so I'm clear, are we voting on a 10-minute break?
That's correct.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Lee Senecal. At approximately 8:15 p.m., a motion was tabled for a 10-minute recess, following which council will continue.
Any objections? Hearing none, carried, adoptee, a 10-minute recess. I'll direct the question to our clerk. Our recess was 10 minutes. I have 11 minutes right now.
It is 8:25.
Okay, I need some light.
Okay, so we do have quorum, so we're going to be able to proceed. The next item is to authorize the sale of municipal lands south of Sapourin Road and unopened road. Is there a mover and a seconder for that resolution? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas Council for the West Nipissing Municipality has recommended the transfer of certain municipally owned lands described herein, and more particularly described on Schedule A to Bylaw 2022-41, being firstly, Argyle Street, Plan 35, Township Springer. Secondly, Beaconsfield Avenue, Plan 35, Township Springer. Thirdly, Blocks 45 to 48, Plan 35. And fourthly, Blocks 39 to 44, Plan 35, all in the Township of Springer. And whereas the property was declared surplus by resolution number 22,001-348, be it resolved that Council that bylaw number 2022-41 being a bylaw to authorize the transfer of lands for the consideration of 65,000 plus HST in the Township of Springer shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Questions, comments? Conseiller Denis.
I'm just wondering, Madam Mayor, if those have been through the real estate, or have they been appraised? Or?
Through you, Madam Chair, those were appraised last winter, and I was given direction by council at a meeting, I believe in January. The information was there to accept the offered price as it met the appraised value.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Conseiller Dan? You're on mute, Conseiller Dan.
Councillor Leo just advised me that he's having trouble getting into the system, Madam Clerk.
He's not in the waiting room. Has he tried to come back in?
Yes, can you call him and ask him what's happening? Because he said that he tries to get in and that.
Okay, well, first of all, can we wrap up this resolution and if there's any other staff members that are still in the meeting, if they can communicate with Conseiller Leo, because I see 11 participants on the screen. So let's wrap up this resolution here. Are there further questions to what was asked and what is being presented? Hearing none. Any objections? Aucune objection. Hearing none. Carried. Adopted. So just a quick question to our clerk. Do we have other staff that are part of the meeting right now and they can communicate with Conseiller Leo?
Someone is calling.
Pardon?
Someone's calling.
Excuse, I did not hear.
Well, as Councillor Duhaime indicated, someone is calling. Thanks.
OK, thank you. Donc, on procède avec la prochaine résolution to authorize the closure of unopened roads, Argyle and Beaconfield Avenue. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Chris. Conseiller Yvon.
It was moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-42 being a bylaw to close Argyle Street and Beaconsfield Avenue in the West Nipissing Municipality for the proposed disposition shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Are there any questions or comments pertaining to this, Conseiller Lise? You are on mute, Conseiller Lise.
I'm trying, and if you say it, it makes me nervous and it slow down. So when I'm really trying, it doesn't work every time as fast as I want to. My question is, okay, bylaw to authorize the closures of unopened, what do you mean? So if it's not open, it's not closed?
Through you, Madam Chair, when a road is laid out on a plan of subdivision, whether it's opened or not opened, it is still a public road by definition. And in order to convey it for some other use, council has to close it by bylaw. So it loses its road status.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments? Hearing none. Any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopted. We move on to finalize the bylaw to renew the franchise agreement with Enbridge Gas. Is there a mover and a seconder? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas at the February 15th, 2022 meeting, council passed a resolution granting first and second reading of a bylaw 2022-24, authorizing the West Nipissing Municipality to enter into a franchise agreement with Enbridge Gas Inc. And whereas the municipality has received a decision and order EB 2022-0104 from the Ontario Energy Board dated April 21st, 2022, be it therefore resolved that the Corporation of the West Nipissing Municipality hereby grants a third and final reading of bylaw number 2022-24 and authorizes the execution of the franchise agreement with Enbridge Gas.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopted. A mover and a seconder so we can amend the traffic and the parking bylaw. Conseiller Denis. Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-47 being a bylaw to amend 2020-58 being a bylaw to regulate traffic and parking in the West Nipissing Municipality shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Any questions or comments? We have a memo that identifies that the municipality of West Nipissing received a request from the Anishinaabe Police seeking the addition of a stop sign at the intersection of Coburn Road and Sweetgrass Road. Other emergency services were also included on the request and no concerns were brought forward. Is there any objections? Aucune objection? None. Carried. Adopted. Okay, the next item, proclamation to declare June 2022 as Pride Month and provide additional support. The proclamation was done at a ceremonial event at the raising of the flag. Therefore, direction to the clerk. I would recommend that the resolution would be obsolete because that was already done. Would that be correct?
Would be council if they want to just let it go.
Okay. Well, my recommendation would be that there's not really a resolution required to proclaim the month of June, but we do have a request for additional support. So I see Conseiller Dan, Conseiller Chris.
So I would just say, just to make sure that.
Just a second, Conseiller Chris, it's Conseiller Dan and Conseiller Chris.
I would think that we would read the resolution because not everybody attended the raising of the flag. Some people were not apprised of it even going to exist. So I think that out of respect, we should read the proclamation and then entertain what they're requesting afterwards.
Okay, Conseiller Chris.
So I was just going to say, I believe, I'm wrong, but I think by reading it and accepting it as a resolution, then that kind of makes it absolutely official. Thank you.
Okay, so is everyone in agreement that we proceed with the resolution?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder. Conseiller Dan, Conseiller Chris.
It is moved by Councillor Avida and seconded by Councillor Fisher. It resolved that the mayor be authorized to proclaim the month of June 2021 as Gay Pride Month in the municipality of West Nipissing. Did you want me to read the proclamation, Madam Mayor?
Yes, if you can read the English and I'll proceed with the French. Thank you.
Thank you. Whereas the municipality of West Nipissing supports the right of every citizen to experience equality and freedom from discrimination, and whereas all people, regardless of age, gender identity, race, color, religion, marital status, national origin, sexual orientation, and physical challenges have the right to be treated on the basis of their intrinsic value as human beings. And whereas the West Nipissing municipality accepts and welcomes people of diverse backgrounds and believes a diverse population leads to a more vibrant community. And whereas the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, or sometimes questioning and two-spirited LGBTQ2+ communities contribute to the cultural, civic, and economic successes of the West Nipissing municipality. And whereas while we are as a society at large embracing new definitions of sexuality and gender, we must also acknowledge that the need for education and awareness remains vital to end discrimination and prejudice. And whereas the municipality of West Nipissing acknowledges the ongoing efforts to bring awareness to the continued evolution of the West Nipissing Pride movement, be it therefore resolved that I, Joanne Savage, and members of the West Nipissing Council proclaim the month of June 2022 as Gay Pride Month in the West Nipissing municipality and encourage our residents to reflect on the ongoing struggle for equality of the LGBTQ2+ community face and celebrate the contributions that enhance our municipality and its communities.
Attendu que la municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest soutient tous les membres de sa communauté et défend leur droit d'être libres et égaux, et ce, sans se sentir stigmatisés ou discriminés. Attendu que toutes les personnes ont le droit d'être respectées pour qui elles sont, peu importe l'âge, l'ethnie, l'identité culturelle, sociale, sexuelle, religieuse, l'aspect physique, psychologique, et ont le droit d'être traités comme des êtres humains. Attendu que la municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest s'ouvre à la diversité et la reconnaît comme étant un atout au développement de sa communauté. Attendu que la municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest reconnaît la valeur des personnes de la communauté LGBTQ2+, lesbiennes, gays, bisexuelles, transgenres, en questionnement et bi-spirituels, en soulignant leur contribution aux divers secteurs d'activité sociaux, culturels, économiques et administratifs. Attendu que la municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest valorise les diverses identités et expressions de genre et reconnaît l'importance d'éduquer les gens et de les sensibiliser aux enjeux liés aux membres de la communauté LGBTQ2+, afin d'éliminer les préjugés et les pratiques discriminatoires envers ces personnes. Attendu que la municipalité de Nipissing-Ouest reconnaît la part du comité Fierté Nipissing-Ouest et travaille de pair avec ce groupe en appuyant ces initiatives. Par la présente, je, mairesse Joanne Savage, appuyée des membres du conseil municipal de Nipissing-Ouest, déclare le mois de juin 2022 mois de la fierté gay et j'encourage tous les résidentes et résidents de la municipalité à se joindre à moi pour célébrer la communauté LGBTQ2+, en guise de solidarité et de reconnaissance aux obstacles que ces personnes ont dû et doivent encore aujourd'hui surmonter. Those in favor, en faveur, adopté, carried. Now, before proceeding, we also had a memo, which was a request provided by Ms. Sandy Guindon on behalf of the West Nipissing Pride Committee, Secretary and Executive Board Member. They asked that the month of June be declared as as Pride Month. Asked Council to raise the Pride flag at Minnehaha Bay on June 1st. That was done. Communication did a phenomenal job in conveying the information and sharing it to the public. We asked Council to support the display of flags on King Street in Sturgeon Falls for the month of June. Bravo to Luc Schall, a committee member who has undertaken this initiative, and that's been done. We asked Council to support our main fundraiser for the year with a discounted cost to rent Marcel Noël Hall for June 25th. June 2022 will be the first opportunity our committee has had to host an event without the impact of COVID-19 and to strategically fundraise to support our local initiatives. We want to provide something exciting to the residents of West Nipissing and allow for an opportunity to promote unity. This will be the first time we can invite and include the community in a large-scale event. Working alongside the support of our council would make this event even a richer experience. And I believe that they included a poster, and on the poster, it states June 25th, that there's a celebrity drag show that will take place at the Marcel Noel Hall at 7 p.m. So what the final item that council needs to deal with is the issue about support for their major fundraiser for the year, which is the cost for the rent of the hall. Discussion. Conseil Elise.
Just a clarification, Madam Mayor, when was that memo sent to the council with the information? Or how did
It's included in our package.
okay, when was it? Today?
No. This
In the
was
minute.
submitted.
Page 42, please.
No, I know, but I mean, when was it, did the municipality receive it? Because I mean, it's passed now, so I'm trying to
No.
think.
The municipality received this, I would say, probably 2 months ago, but the
That's what I'm
event
asking.
is taking place June 25th.
I know
The
that,
website
so
is Shrine.
I know you answered my question. My question was, when did we receive, that was the June, what, you said it 2 months ago? So that's why it's included in the poster, but I don't understand why it's included in the poster and we had not talked about it. So I'm just asking a clarification because we had it for 2 months. It's not something
Well,
we
I would
know it's
say
in Turkish, right?
I say approximately 2 months. The request has been submitted.
Okay, you answer my question.
Okay, so the question is, maybe I can ask the question first of all to our staff. What is the cost to be able to rent the hall for a one-time event? If I can
The hall
direct,
itself, Madam Mayor, is 700, and if they're using the kitchen, it's another, I believe, 250 or 300.
okay. But they haven't identified on their, on the letter that they're using the kitchen. They're just making reference to the hall.
I don't believe they are using the kitchen.
Okay, so the request here is that they're looking for assistance for the hall being their first event and the first opportunity to do fundraising since COVID. Discussion, Conseil Elise.
Well, it's just that we did that before when it's people from West Nipissing for fundraising. It's been provided if it's available, obviously, and only Stefan can answer that. But I mean, we have a lot of group that's been using it and the request was granted. So I don't see, I would support it based on the fact that we had granted previous.
Okay,
Request.
they already booked the hall for the 25th, so it is available.
Yeah.
That's already done. So you say yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Conseil Broly.
I remember quite a few years back, we had brought this subject up at council, and I think there were different prices that we would charge. One of them is no fee. The second one was at cost, and the third option was the regular price. So I would support what it's costing. So that way it doesn't cost the municipality, taxpayers anything, but they're getting a rebate on the they're not paying full price. So they're getting a break, but it's not costing anybody else anything. So I would prefer that option. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm going to direct the question to a director of community services and AgDev. I think what you're alluding to the fact, maybe I'm incorrect, the cost of the hall is one thing, But also when it comes to the maintenance of the hall, there was an allocation, there was a cost for that maintenance. And I think in the day, council had a concern that the cost should not be borne by everyone, that the cost for the maintenance would still need to be absorbed, something in that light, but I'll direct it to our Director of Community Services, which he can tell us if we have a policy, if we don't have a policy, what we've done in the past.
So our waiver fee policy does stipulate that council can authorize a full, a free haul. I believe they were for charitable organizations and those that are doing fundraising. Those that are charging at the table for private events or charging at the door to come in for private events, council has the opportunity through our policy to also approve a 50% fee reduction to the hall. And I believe in the past, that's what we have assumed our costs when you look at supplies and staff time and whatnot, is around half the hall rental fee. So council does have the ability, however, through our policy to approve a full reduction of 100% of the hall fee, or go at 50%, or nothing at all. Yeah.
Thank you. Conseil Denis?
Yes, I would agree to go to 50% of the cost, since they're charging $25 per ticket. So I would be agreeable to 50% of the cost. Thank you.
Okay, so I hear 100%, 50%. So can I ask the question right now, who would support in providing the hall at 100%?
I said 50%, ma'am.
No, I will ask that question. Like, first of all, I'm trying to see consensus of of council, because I heard 100 and I heard 50. So I'll be asking both to see where the consensus lies with council. So who would be in agreement to provide 100%, $700?
Madam Mayor, can we ask question, because about that, I do have question before we take a vote on anything.
Definitely. What's your question, Conseil?
My question is, I want to ask Stefan, because you mentioned the one, because the $25 a ticket is a fundraising. So that's why they're doing that. So it's not like a private party and they're there to make a profit for themselves. So correct me if I'm wrong, Stefan, in the past, the people that was doing fundraising, they had the hall 100%.
For those that are charitable and not-for-profit, which I think this is the case, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I'm asking the question. Is very important to say, because again, we're talking about precedent. And there's some that, and I don't want to name any organization because there's more than one, but I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I want to ask Stefan and you answer my question. So they will fit the criteria that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, did before provide free for those on the same criteria to people, Stefan?
We have, council has in the past, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Conseil Dan, do you have a question?
Yes, I do.
Conseil Denis and
I
Conseil
have a question. In regards to maintenance, are you referring to cleaning the hall up when they're finished with it? And are you referring to having somebody there on standby in case something happens? Can you just give me an idea what you mean by maintenance? Or
That's correct. There's always work that's involved in setting up the hall and then cleaning it up the next day. And we also have staff on site until the event is completed, so that staff can safely lock up the building after they're done.
Okay, thank you.
Conseil Denis and I believe Conseil Leo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to reconsider my comments, and I think if it's a charitable organization, I would go for 100%. Thank you.
Conseil Leo.
Well, I think I would agree also. I mean, we've allowed that in the past, so we've created precedent, so I would agree with it.
Okay, so I'm going to ask the question, who supports providing the hall free of charge to this charitable not-for-profit organization, and the contribution of the municipality would be to waive the $700 fee for the hall rental? Who supports that? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Majority carries. So the West Nipissing Pride Committee will be able to have the Hall of Marcel Noël June 25th free. And that concludes the request. Now, we do have some noise bylaw exemptions, and we'll need a mover and a seconder. And I think, do they have to be dealt with individually? They do, eh?
That's correct.
Okay, so Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Rowley,
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Whereas a request was received from Steve Morrison seeking council's authorization for an exemption to the municipal noise bylaw in order to host an outdoor block party. Be it resolved that council authorizes an exemption of the West Nipissing Municipality noise bylaw for an outdoor block party requested by Steve Morrison, which will take place at 416 Champagne Road in Sturgeon Falls on Saturday, June the 11th.
any objections? Aucune objection? Hearing none, carried, adopted. The next one for 145 Canal Road, mover and a seconder. Conseiller Leo, Conseiller Chris,
It was moved by Councillor Mallette and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas a request was received from Claude Dufaur seeking council's authorization for an exemption of the municipal noise bylaw in order to host an outdoor birthday celebration with a live band. Be it resolved that council authorizes an exemption of the noise bylaw for an outdoor birthday celebration with a live band requested by Claude Dufaur, which will take place at 145 Canal Road in Sturgeon Falls on Saturday, July 30th, 2022.
are there any objections? Aucune objection? None, carried, adopted. The next one for 65 South Shore Road. A mover and a seconder. Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Denis,
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Whereas a request was received from Samantha Salem and Noella Gee seeking council's authorization for an exemption of the municipal noise bylaw in order to host a 50th anniversary celebration. Be it resolved that council authorizes an exemption of the West Nipissing Municipality's noise bylaw for a 50th anniversary celebration requested by Samantha Salem and Noella Gee, which will take place at 65 South Shore Road in Field on Saturday, July 23rd.
are there any objections? Aucune objection? None, carried, adopted. A mover and a seconder to provide tax assistance for the elderly and disabled property owners. Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Denis,
It is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Denise Senecal. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2022-48 being a bylaw to provide tax assistance to certain elderly and disabled residents who are owners of real property shall come into force and take effect on the date is passed.
are there any questions or comments? Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Chris,
What exactly does that entice? What kind of assistance would they get?
I do recall that we had at one point increased the amount of assistance that was being provided, if that would be correct. I'll have to ask our Director of Corporate Services and their specific criteria as well. So through the Director of Corporate Services, can you identify the amount that could be provided to disabled or low-income senior or spouse or same-sex partner to qualify for this tax assistance?
Thank you. This is the one we do every year, and you are correct. A couple of years ago, we did change the amount. So if their taxes have changed more than $30, they're eligible for up to $300 of the difference in their tax sort of from year to year as a rebate.
Are there any other questions or comments? Conseiller Dan, Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Alice.
So the process, Ms. Craddock, is what? They have to apply. I'm assuming we don't look at every tax record and go out and ask them to apply. I'm assuming that there's a process in place the elderly have to do or the disabled have to do.
If I may, that's correct. There's a form attached to this bylaw that that they need to complete. So they need to, give us their name. They need to actually provide evidence that they are low income, senior or disabled. And usually that's just sort of they receive their annual statement from CRA, and that just sort of accompanies it. And then we do the math on what's happened with their taxes.
Thank you.
Councillor Chris?
So yeah, my question to the Director of Corporate Services. So I remember we did change this once, and there's sort of quite a narrow band of influence that we have. 3,300. Do you know offhand what that band is? What we're capable of doing? What's the max kind of thing?
Well, I believe our Director of Corporate Services stated that they could be eligible. They need to have their tax bill increased over $30, or they can be compensated up to $300 if they qualify. I'm not too sure if that's the question, but I'll leave it to our Director of Corporate Services if she understood something different.
So Councillor Fisher, are you looking, we've had this discussion before as far as who might be eligible for it or other processes that might be in place?
Yeah, well, what the maximums are, what our sphere of influence is on those particular numbers. Is that 30 to 300? Is it up to us? Can it be 20 to 500 kind of thing? Like in what range can we operate as a council?
Yeah, so those numbers are your numbers. So where we had some difficulties before is expanding the pool, because we sort of need to be able to have proof of need. And so this is how, when we get CRA proof as far as the low income, that's easy. But as far as what the numbers are, if you want to move the top number, if you want to move the bottom number, then that's certainly council's prerogative.
Right, so, sorry, can I follow on to that?
Yes.
So yeah, that's what I'm getting at. But I'm remembering wrong. But I thought there was a band in which we could reasonably operate, and sort of like we can't just say, okay, you don't have to pay taxes anymore because you're elderly or disabled. But there was sort of a min and a max that we could do. Am I wrong? Am I out to lunch?
So we may be crossing a few things. With tax rates in general, there are provincial bands that are minimum max. With this one, we might have had a discussion as far as what the consequences were, who it might impact, sort of what the numbers might be with what impact, and had some analysis for you with that. Again, this year, as far as a financial impact to the municipality, not a lot of financial impact because MPAC hasn't done any reassessment, so people's taxes haven't changed a whole lot. In a year where there's a lot of assessment change, then it might be a different story. So yeah, if you're looking sort of for what might be a comfortable range, what might be the financial impact, I'd have to come back to you with that, Fisher.
That would be a different subject matter that we would have to discuss at a future general government committee meeting. So if that's of interest to find out whether or not if we can go beyond and what are the options, we can explore that. But I think right now the resolution beforehand is to provide a reimbursement up to a maximum of $300. So we should deal with what we have beforehand. Councillor Lise? You had your hand up a while ago.
Yes, I know part of my question was answered, and so I'm okay.
Okay, so with the resolution beforehand, are there any objections? Aucune objection. Hearing none, carried, adopted. Okay, the next one, connecting link service agreement for winter maintenance. Do we have a resolution for that? We do. Mover and a seconder, Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Burley.
It was moved by Councillor Duhayman, seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that the Chief Administrative Officer be authorized to sign the Connecting Link multi-year service agreement with Fowler Construction Company Limited for winter maintenance services in specified Connecting Link locations for an annual lump sum of $147,563.42, beginning in the 2022-2023 winter season and extending for a total of 7 seasons to be in line with the time frame of the CDMC contract.
Okay, so we have the request beforehand, but did we get a review done by our Public Works Authority with their feedback pertaining to this request? If we haven't, is it possible that this subject matter be deferred and reviewed by Public Works and brought back with a report from Public Works on points of consideration on whether or not A, we should consider, B, what are the options, and what are the financial gains and benefits as far as service? So I'm just proposing a deferral so we can get that feedback to facilitate the decision-making. Conseil Dan?
I don't think there's a need for a deferral because this is a contract that we do every year. And what my question was, I would like to know what specific role we're talking about, Mel or Jay and Mr. Barbo. What links are we specific? Like I know the main link is on Highway 17, but are there other links that like Highway 64?
It's identified on the document.
No, but the public did not know, Madam Mayor. That's
Okay, well,
asking the question.
okay, well, the question, you have the info, it's Highway 7.
No, Madam Mayor, the public doesn't have the info.
No, I'm just stating what is on this document, Highway 17.
Stating that the public is aware of what the links are, Madam Mayor. That's all I'm
That's
saying.
what I'm sharing, Conseil Dan. That's
Well,
great.
then, the question. And I'm asking the question through you, Madam Mayor, I'm asking the question to the CAO.
Okay, so you're directing the CEO to identify which link from the info that is provided on the sheet beforehand. Okay, so I'll provide it to the CEO. To our CEO, if he can identify the 2 links identified on the agreement.
Well, I don't have the agreement in front of me, but connecting link is Highway 17. And then Highway 64 from Highway 17 to, I believe, Sabourin Road, if I'm not mistaken. And that is what is the connecting link portions that we're talking about.
You're
So
correct.
this is a winter maintenance agreement well, good, I guessed right. This is a winter maintenance agreement, as was indicated. That is an agreement that has been vetted by Public Works and that forms part of their budget, and they are recommending it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Conseil Rowley?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Being in that field, in that type of work, I know that there's no way we could offer this service, the safety that they do offer us on the plow is on there every hour and a half plus every call that if we have a complaint, if there's a complaint, they're also out there. So this could not be matched by our team at this price. I'm in favor of this.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, that is great. You're going on a visual because I don't believe the agreement states that they are out there on the hour and a half.
Yes.
So I just
yes.
want to make sure.
Yes, the Highway 17 is a Class 2 highway, and a Class 2 highway, when there's a storm, they have the plow has to the return trip is an hour and a half, and that's a rule. They have to adhere to this, or they would be in contempt with the MTO.
Okay, well, I'm just going according to what I have in front of me and what I've read. So thank you for enlightening us on your knowledge. That's greatly appreciated. Conseil Yvon, Conseil Denis.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This document is dated March 17, 2022. I was just wondering, due to the increases that we've had before us is whether or not this will reflect on the cost here. Is there a chance that they will come back with an increase in that price?
If you don't agree to an agreement, then yes, that's not a threat. But if you don't have an agreement and you're not locking in what we agreed upon, then certainly then you'll have to enter into a new agreement.
Okay, the only reason why I say that is, if Madam Mayor, if I can proceed.
Yes, you may.
The proposal, they say there is a certain amount of time that we must respond to this contract, because otherwise it could change. And it's in the terms and conditions. But anyway, let's hope they didn't foresee that, and let's move on with what is being asked here. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Conseil Denis?
Yes, Madam Mayor, the way I read it, there's this is for 7 seasons. So I don't see, is there going to be an increase? Is it going to be that price for 7 years, or I would like to have staff, our expert staff, tell us what's going on, and hopefully, I think we should defer it. I would agree to defer it till we have all our answers here. I'm not sure. How come we have a 7-season contract for the same price? Doesn't sound right to me. But anyways, I would rather have a deferral with Sean coming and explaining all these issues. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so as soon as we get a request for deferral, discussion stops, but there needs to be a seconder for the deferral. Is there a seconder for deferral to receive information regarding what Conseil Denis has identified, total of 7 seasons, if the cost remains the same for every season, if it's locked in, and so on? I would need a seconder. Conseil Elise, you second?
Yeah.
Okay, and the request is that it be reviewed by Public Works. So I would gather that it would come back to the next Public Works Committee meeting, so it's not delayed and dealt with as quickly as possible. So calling the deferral, the motion for deferral to a vote. Those in favor? Levez la main, s'il vous plaît, ceux qui sont d'accord que ça soit rapporté à une date ultérieure, le prochain comité de travaux publics. Defeated. Question through our CEO, is this for a 7 season? Is the agreement for 7 seasons to be in line with the time frame of the CDMC contract?
I haven't gone through the agreement. If it says for 7 seasons, that's what it says. Is the Director of Corporate Services on, or it basically deals with the type of the escalators, which is GDP, I understand, and the same, or the growth. But as I indicated, Public Works has reviewed it, recommended it for approval that's really all I can tell you.
Okay. But I'll ask our Director of Corporate Services, because I think.
Order, Madam Mayor. Order, Madam Mayor. I thought procedurally, once the vote is done, we don't have any more discussion on it.
We didn't vote on it.
Yes, we did. We just voted on it. We defeated it.
No, we voted on the motion for deferral. The motion for deferral is defeated, so this motion still stands. That's what our procedures do state, Conseil Dan. So now we're back to the original resolution. Whether we like our procedures or not, they are your rules. So the question that's being asked is that we are agreeing to the contract for 2022-2023 winter for the cost of $147,563. It will be extended for a total of 7 seasons to be in line with the time frame. So I guess the question was being asked, is the cost going to be locked in for 7 consecutive seasons, or is this subject to renewal? It would be great for members to be able to comprehend and have answers to their questions. So if May I, through the CEO, direct it to our Director of Corporate Services?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
So actually, the agreement, if you see the agreement, it actually specifies what the escalator is every year. And so you look at, this is the year one for the first contract, and there'll be a CPI adjustment applied in June of each year, starting next year. It references very specifically what table for CPI that they're going to be looking at. So yes, you can expect an escalator on this price.
Okay. So the agreement is for 7 years and it will be adjusted every year. Perfect. Does that answer your question, Conseil Denis? Not hearing yes or no, I'll make the, sorry,
Madam
Conseil
Mayor,
Denis?
Where is that in the agreement? Is that in the terms and conditions? To Mrs. Craddock,
It's
6.
it's on the
Six.
first page,
first
It's-
page,
yeah.
page 56,
55.
55, okay,
It's number
6.
6.
6. Yes, okay, see you. Thank you very much.
Are there any further questions pertaining to this? Okay, coming back to the resolution to award the contract for 7 seasons. Any objections? Aucune objection? None, carried, adopted. A mover and a seconder for the increase of cemetery fees. Is there a mover? Conseil Rowley? Is there a seconder? Conseil Yvon?
It's moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Duhaime. Whereas at a council meeting held on May the 24th, 2022, that's the wrong, sorry, the wrong resolution. Right, no, I got
You
it,
know what?
just in the
It's
wrong
a-
order.
Yeah, you know what? It's my bad, my apologies, because the next one has to do with a disconnect policy.
Hey,
I jumped one, so it's my fault, my apologies. Mover and a seconder, Conseil Yvon, Conseil Chris.
it is moved by Councillor Duhaime and seconded by Councillor Fisher, whereas a council meeting held on May the 24th, 2022, the West Nipissing Municipality reviewed the disconnect from work policy. That should actually be tonight. It should be June. Be it therefore resolved that Council for the West Nipissing Municipality adopts the disconnect from work policy, which shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed. And be it further resolved that the disconnect from work policy shall become part of the West Nipissing Policy Manual.
Are there any questions or comments? Conseil Leo.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, is that in line with what the province has just approved for June 1st? Is that the same policy with the law, whatever it's a provincial law? Is that the same thing?
I'm not sure the question. Are you directing the question to the?
You enlighten me?
So I'll direct your question to the Director of Corporate Services. If you
That's
have
correct,
objection.
Councillor Millet. This is a legislated policy that employers with more than 25 employees must have in place now. Just to outline sort of, what contact is and sort of define roles and responsibilities for contact.
Thank you.
Are we talking about,
Conseil.
well, I'm mixed now. Are we talking about the cemetery bylaw? We're talking about.
No, I
Because there are
explained.
2 different things in my book, like.
Yes, Conseil,
Okay.
I explained it. We're talking about a disconnecting from work policy. And
Does
you
it
have a
apply-
copy. Yes, Conseil.
Subsequent to that, does it apply just for the employee or it apply to council?
Well, I believe I know the answer, but I see that our Director of Corporate Services will provide a response.
If we've learned nothing else this year, we have learned very clearly that council is not employees.
Okay, so I guess maybe a recommendation should be that next council look at that before they start their term. Because it would be nice to have, right? So I agree with it that the employee, yet the employer should have it for the employee. So I agree 100% too.
But if I may, in that line, since the comment has been identified, the objective of disconnecting from work is to be able to respect the working hours of our employees. The assumption would be that members of council do not disrupt employees on their regular time off. And in the event of an emergency, we have one employee for council, which is our CEO. So should there be reference in that policy to disconnect from work identified? So I'll direct it to our Director of Corporate Services if there's no objection with the CEO.
So again, so the policy applies to the employees, which means that the CAO is covered in that. What I believe that Councillor Senecal was talking about is council to council interaction or people reaching out to councillors. So because the intention with the municipal, with the provincial legislation, the intention is, and it's not an issue at West Nipissing, but the intention is to protect employees from being fired for not responding to their boss emailing them at 9 o'clock at night, kind of thing. And so employees are protected. It does mean the CAO is protected if council is contacting the CAO or trying to contact the CAO at off hours. But because council members aren't employees and because council members can't be fired and all that sort of stuff, you don't have the same protection as far as council talking to each other under this policy.
Okay. So there's no need to involve council or to make reference to council as far as respecting this policy. That would be something completely different.
I would assume that council would respect the policy that they put in place, yes.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Elise?
Well, it's just because I do understand and it's clear, but there's some still mud at some place because yes, council respect the policy. So what you're saying is that respect that when 5 o'clock is, we don't email or we don't try to contact till the next day because they're off. So it does involve us too not to contact council. Okay. So we can, because we do know that it did happen, that email and blah, blah, blah. And I agree 100%, because if you have a personal call, I mean, at some point of time, you need to disconnect from the agency and try to have your time. So I have not an issue with that, but it should be respected by all council, not just some member. So it can be applied. And I agree that we'll try to make sure that it's done. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, Conseil Dan?
There's a gray area here. The point being is that I think what it's saying is that they don't have to respond. If you come with an idea or something that you want to make sure that you don't forget and you send an email to, let's say, one of the CAO, the CAO doesn't have to respond, but at least it's there for him to see it the next morning. That's all I think there's some gray area there.
Well, then we have to make it clear because I think the policy purpose, and correct me if I'm wrong, both all management that's around the table, senior staff, that you would like to be free, and everybody has cell phone today. So it's, if you are at a party and it's beeping and you're checking and you got an email from an employee or council member, I don't think it's acceptable after work hour, and we should know who we could call if there's an emergency. So that's what I'm saying. If you want to make a policy that be fair and for staff and to protect staff, that's the way it should be. There should not be a gray zone like that, because it's not right if one is doing it and the other one cannot do it. And if it's an emergency contact person, I can get that. But I mean, So I think it should be added. If you want to protect staff, I want to protect staff also. And I think our director of comfort was very clear to say that we're not employee and we don't have the same protection, and we don't have protection, as a matter of fact, not much. But by all means, when the employee have the right to have their spare time, they have policy, let's protect them, and but no gray zone, because that's not fair. Should be
So
clear, no
hearing-
contact.
Hearing the discussion to our Director of Corporate Services, could that gray zone be added to the policy?
Well,
That's what I hear.
the difficulty is that, and because both Councilor Lees and Councilor Vita are correct, is that, you know, nothing precludes someone from sending an email, but we obviously would like everyone to sort of respect what regular working hours are and things like that, and who's got phones with them. And yes, you're right, the ding, ding, ding. But the problem is that if we're gonna amend and say this, then we're actually dealing with a really just specific thing here, because that doesn't necessarily apply to how I'm communicating with my employees or how we're communicating with foremen, and we might actually have to communicate with foremen. So if I start putting more in just to protect staff from council doing things, then it becomes I'll have to look at the whole language all over again. If we can accept the fact that we have this policy, that the spirit of the policy is, yes, save your email for the next morning, but understand that if you're not sure how to send your email and you send it, that you're not getting a response. So both parts are valid, but I think that if we start tweaking it just to address the fact that we specifically want to eliminate a gray area for council contacting staff, it becomes really difficult.
So what you should.
Sorry, Alice, just a second, our CEO.
Oh, sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Barbeau.
No problem. So under what Ms. Craddock is saying, under the spirit of the legislation, is to protect that work-life balance, and also in a corporate culture where there's expectations of people way beyond their times, and they didn't have any protection and rights. I could suggest to you, and now you're talking, and that, you know, that could apply here. What if we have a director who is continuously contacting a manager, you know, after hours, and that and there's a expectation. So it's really not just at the council level. The council level, I could tell you, complimentary. There's an enormous amount of respect for off time, and the contacts that I don't even remember having one of an emergent nature. Yeah, so I don't see it as much a council issue as more protecting anybody that is at a level. I start calling Elisa on Saturdays or what have you. That's not fair. So it's really more an organizational issue.
Okay. Any other comments? Any objections? Aucune objection? None? Carried, adopted. Now we move on to the increase of cemetery fees.
And we already have a mover and a seconder, so it is moved by Councillor Larrabee and seconded by Councillor Pine. It resolved that bylaw number 2022-49 being a bylaw to amend bylaw 2012-37, being a bylaw to administer, manage, and regulate and control the cemeteries in the West Nipissing municipality shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Okay, we all had the proposed increase effective before us. Are there any questions or any comments pertaining to the increase? None?
Just,
Brody?
Just as, this is a cost recovery. This is all it is. So it's in line with every anyone around. If we might even be a little cheaper than anyone around. So.
Okay, and there's an entire there's an entire list for the specific prices and locations and the type of services. Melanie?
Through you, Madam Chair, just to note that the increases relate only to the care and maintenance contribution portion. There's no benefit to the municipality. It's the Bereavement Authority of Ontario that has raised the amount of money to be put in care and maintenance. So it's not a fee increase, it's actually a trust increase and regulated by the Bereavement Authority.
Okay. Cosalis?
Question while we're on that, I did not know the answer. I did have a question that anybody that have question, who did they call? Did they call the chair of the board, or they call Madame Melanie, or whoever? Like, because I'm not sure about that. And I tried to find it on our site, and
They can
so
call me.
they can call. Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay. Are there any concerns with the proposed increased fees as identified by our clerk?
Doesn't matter, I won't be paying for it.
Aucune objection? Hearing none? Carried, adopted. Okay, to amend the policy regarding school bursaries, which we discussed at budget, is there a mover and a seconder?
Oh, what?
Conseiller Yvon, Conseiller Chris?
It is moved by Councillor Duham and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Whereas at the budget deliberations held on April 26, 2022, Council for the West Nipissing Municipality recommended revising the donations policy to increase the bursary donations to all schools. Be it therefore resolved that Council of the West Nipissing Municipality adopts the amended donation policy 1999-131, which shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
So the amendment is to increase the donation of bursaries for the secondary school from $600 to $1,200. The primary schools from $50 to $100, and to our local community college, Collège Boreal, from $100 to $200. Are there any objections? Aucune objection. Very quick question. Collège Boreal, their graduation was today. Were they provided with the $200 or were they provided with the $100?
The increase.
The increased. Okay. No objections. Aucune objection. Carried. Adopted. Okay, to amend the traveling expense policy, mover and a seconder. Conseiller Chris, Conseiller Broley.
Madam Mayor, I propose that we adjourn. It's 9:30.
Okay, we have 3 minutes.
Okay.
Yes.
We have up to 9:30, so we're going to deal with this one issue and deal with your proposal after.
It is moved by Councillor Fisher and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. Be it resolved that Council of the West Nipissing Municipality adopts the amended traveling expenses policy 1999/131, which shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed.
Okay, I see that the changes that are being provided in the policy is overnight stay, well, for an event in the district of Paris Sound or north of this district, overnight stay mileage and $275 per day. So the $275 was what current amount?
The current policy has for areas Perry Sound and North at $225 and
Okay.
areas South at $275. So it's a $50 increase to both.
Okay. And this policy doesn't deal with the kilometer rate?
It does. Point C deals with the kilometer. And I'm suggesting that that we fall in line with the Revenue Canada rate. I found that that's typical of municipalities. And that means that when it varies, the CRA rate can change from year to year, and then we just stay current with the CRA rate.
Okay, and what is the current CR rate?
61 cents a kilometer.
61 cents a kilometer?
Yeah.
Okay. I know we haven't increased it a lot, and a lot of boards and agencies have been increasing their kilometer rates. But the majority of them are going with, I believe, the provincial rate instead of the CRA, but okay, so to increase both fees for traveling, which is common, you know, for conferences, and then for traveling, which involves the distance for council, but for staff who are entitled to kilometer rate, it would be increased to 61 cent according to the CRA. And if the CRA drops their rate, you know, if the price of gas goes down and they drop their rate, well, then our rate would be adjusted. If the CRA increases their rate, well, then it would be adjusted to reflect the new rate as well. Is that correct? That's what this is being proposed, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So any questions or comments? Any objections? So, Conseil Dan?
Mayor, I'd like to address a question to Madame Craddock. So we're not using the provincial rates, we're using the federal rates.
It's actually not the federal government rate for their employees. It's Revenue Canada's rate of what they consider a reasonable rate.
Because there is a difference. Thank you.
There is a difference, yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, well, maybe I'm a little bit confused because we're going with a current year Canada Revenue Agency posted automobile allowance rate. So it's really not correct if that rate is being adjusted or not. So what's being proposed is 61 cents.
If I may, so the difference is that there's a federal policy, there's a provincial policy that talks about mileage rate that those employees get. Outside of all that, CRA says for everybody, you know, regardless of what industry you're in, if you pay your employees a reasonable rate, then it doesn't become taxable. Then we don't have to deal with expenses. Then we don't have to deal with extra forms and taxable benefits. And so that's the rate that's being proposed, is what CRA says. Yeah, because if you're outside of this reasonable rate in CRAs, then it has all kinds of tax implications for our employees. Even if we're a lot lower, it still has tax implications for our employees. So if we stay within the CRA rate, then we don't have to worry about, you know, standby charges and taxable benefits and all that kind of stuff at the end of the year.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? None? Any objections? So can it objection? None? Carried. Adopted. Now, with the request, the request of Conseil Denis, we are at 9:33, 9:33, curfew is 9:30. So I heard Conseil Denis, you know, putting a motion to extend the curfew. Is there a seconder to extend the curfew? We need a motion. Conseil Broley, and that motion is going to be voted on.
It was moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Larrabee. At approximately 9:33 p.m., a motion is tabled to expend the meeting beyond the regular curfew in order to proceed with the agenda.
Those in favor, en faveur? 1, 2, 3, 4, defeated. What's funny, Conseil Dan? No, I shouldn't even ask, sorry. I said personalized comments are not warranted, it's fine. So now there's a mover and a seconder to be able to adjourn. Conseil Denis, Conseil Chris.
It was moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Resolved that bylaw number 2022-55 being a bylaw of the West Nipissing Municipality to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held on June 7th, 2022 shall come into force and take effect on the day it is passed. And it is moved by Councillor Denise Senecal and seconded by Councillor Fisher. Be it resolved that council meeting of June the 7th, 2022 be adjourned.
Okay, all in favor? Carried, adopted. So this does conclude our meeting for this evening. I'll